Why Lucas Giolito can make or break how far the Red Sox go in the postseason.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And want to know the best part? It's free. So make sure you tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the show. It truly is a happy Wednesday because the Red Sox recorded a win over the Toronto Blue Jays last night to cut their magic number down to just 4 to clinch a playoff spot. Just got to keep stringing together wins this week, and that will be the key to this Red Sox team clinching a postseason spot in 2025. Now, I'm going to be talking all about last night's game on today's show, as well as previewing upcoming pitching matchups for the series and a special interview that you won't want to miss, as well as the ABS system being implemented in the majors. I experienced it a lot from covering the Woo Sox this year, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that on today's show as well. But the Red Sox recorded a 4-1 win over the Blue Jays last night in the first of a 3-game series in Toronto. And the Red Sox do not have an easy week ahead with 2 more to finish up this series against the Blue Jays. And then they close out the regular season at home against the Detroit Tigers, another very tough team that as of late has not been playing well. So that should give the Red Sox hope to be able to win that series, but it's not going to be easy. This team cannot take their feet off the gas, and they need to be able to continue to play good baseball. And one of the biggest factors in how far they can go in the postseason this year is their starting pitching rotation. It is one of the biggest things that is going to help them when it comes to a potential run. And one of their most important starting pitchers right now is Lucas Giolito, who threw in the game last night when the Red Sox won 4-1. He threw 4.2 innings, giving up 3 hits and 1 earned run with 3 strikeouts. But here's the kicker. He had 4 walks over 4 2/3. So he threw 98 pitches with 61 of those going for strikes. So while the box score may say that he only gave up 1 run, which is solid, he wasn't overly sharp and his command was not there with the 4 walks. And we have run into this problem with Lucas Giolito before where he pitches really well one start, and then the next start, he just doesn't have his command. And that was one of the biggest issues in this outing with him, is that the command just was not there for him. So 4 2/3 is not exactly ideal. In order for a guy to be reliable in the postseason, you want them to be able to throw at least 5 innings because the bullpen is going to get completely taxed if not. And Lucas Giolito is a very hit or miss guy. He has a 3.41 ERA on the season now. And the thing with him that I really like is that he typically is pretty good on honing in on the pitches that are working for him. So, for example, with Giolito in particular, something that's really good about him is that he does have a good arsenal of pitches. He has a 4-seamer that he throws the most 48% of the time, and a slider that he throws 26% of the time, a changeup that he throws 23% of the time, and a curveball that he throws 4% of the time. So he rarely throws that pitch, primarily relies on the other 3, and primarily in his starts generally is a 2-pitch guy who kind of seems hesitant about going to a 3rd pitch. But once he starts going to a 3rd pitch and he's able to unlock that changeup a little bit more frequently, he finds a lot more success on the mound. So the biggest thing and the biggest key is him feeling comfortable in his own skin and feeling comfortable with throwing more pitches, because the biggest thing that I'm looking at here, in order for him to continue to stump opposing hitters, he's going to have to not be afraid to use that changeup like he uses the slider and the fastball. So that's something that I am eyeing with him moving forward. So if he can continue to throw that pitch at a competitive level like he does his other pitches, he's going to be golden in the postseason. He doesn't have the best advanced metrics because of the fact that his numbers have declined over the course of the season, which is very confusing. His first few starts, he was very solid, and then he started to dip, and we haven't exactly figured out specifically why he's dipped. Yes, he's been moving away from certain pitches, but generally his outings just haven't been as sharp. The walks have increased, and it just hasn't been the same Lucas Giolito as we saw earlier in the season. And this is what I feared, that as it gets later in the season, he would maybe start to feel fatigued because of the fact that he hadn't pitched in a while prior to this season. So I felt like that could be a big factor in this, and a big factor in the reasoning as to why he is not performing at a high level anymore is because he's pitching every 5 days, and pitching every 5 days for the entirety of a season is a lot. So it's not something that he, as of late, has been used to. So I do wonder if that's a contributing factor in this. But his strikeout percentage is poor. It's just in the 31st percentile, meaning he's not getting lots of swings and misses. He's only in the 33rd percentile for chase percentage, which is also a little bit concerning because that means that he's not able to generate lots of guys who are falling for pitches outside the strike zone, which means that his pitches are becoming a little bit more predictable. So that's definitely not ideal. He's in the 18th percentile for average exit velocity, which means that the ball is traveling at a very fast rate when it's making contact against him. And his fastball velocity is poor. It's only in the 32nd percentile. He's averaging 93.3 miles per hour on that fastball. That's something that I've been concerned with for him all season long, is that fastball velocity, because he's going to continue to get cooked on that pitch if he doesn't get the velocity up. And here is why he is a big factor for the Red Sox moving forward, because you have your number one starter in Garrett Crochet, which everybody knows is going to be that number one guy that's likely going to pitch in game one of a wild card series. Then you have Brian Bayo behind him, who is likely going to be the number two starter. Now you have Connolly early, who generally has pitched better than Lucas Giolito. His last outing wasn't as sharp as we've seen from him, but overall, he's pitched really well for the Red Sox. But again, it's a really small sample size. He's only a few starts into his Red Sox career. So putting the kind of pressure on him to expect to be the number three starter in a playoff series is a huge ask. So I'm still putting Lucas Giolito as the number three because at least he's experienced. But the problem is he is all over the place. And if he is not on, the Red Sox starting rotation all of a sudden looks a lot less competitive. If he can hone in on what he was doing earlier on in the season, and if he can be the version of Lucas Giolito that we saw in his first few starts, that's going to be a guy that the Red Sox are going to feel like they can rely on in that rotation. And he is going to get the Red Sox wins in that spot if he goes back to that. But if we see the version of him, even the one we saw against the Blue Jays, even though he only gave up one run, it's just the longevity thing that's an issue. Him not being able to complete the fifth inning and him not being able to throw strikes. He is going to get feasted on those pitches if he does not gain that command back. And that's one of the biggest problems with him too, is if he doesn't have his command, he doesn't usually resolve that throughout the outing. Usually the command is just poor throughout the entirety of the outing if he doesn't have it. And that's a concern that I have going into the postseason, is if it's a day where Lucas Giolito is not on, then what do we do? What happens? So definitely not ideal for him to not be pitching as well as we saw from him earlier on in the season, especially at this point in the season when the Red Sox are really focused on clinching a playoff spot. And then if they do clinch a playoff spot, making sure that they continue to play well going into the playoffs. And you need your 1, 2, 3 as your starters in order to be competitive in the postseason. And if the Red Sox number 3 starter is a very hit or miss guy, it's hard to feel fully confident in this starting rotation. So he's got to bounce back ASAP, and it's a concern for the Red Sox if he doesn't. But Definitely other good things that did happen for the Red Sox in this game. They still left 7 on base and went just 4 for 14 with runners in scoring position. So they're still having those same problems with stranding base runners and not getting that big hit a lot of the time. But Carlos Narvaez hit a big double when it mattered, scored 2 runs for the Red Sox and led to this Red Sox win. But other notable performances is that Masataka Yoshida went 2 for 4 in this game. He has been hitting well as of late. 256 average now with a 299 on base percentage and 351 slugging. I'm hoping he just continues to trend in an upward direction. He has always been a hit or miss guy where he will hit really well for a few games and then he'll dip back into reality of not hitting as well. So I'm hoping that changes and that he can be more consistent at the plate. So that's going to be one of the biggest things I'm looking at. And Nate Lau also went 2 for 2 in this game, drove in 2 runs for the Red Sox and took 2 walks. So he was on the bases a lot for the Red Sox in this game. He has a 227 average with a 308 on base percentage and 382 slugging. So that was another notable player in this game for the Boston Red Sox. So they were able to string together enough to be able to win this game. They had 9 hits in the game, and the Red Sox pitching held Toronto to just 3 hits. So that was the other thing with Lucas Giolito, was he allowed all 3 of those Blue Jays hits, and then the bullpen was lights out the rest of the way. The Red Sox used high leverage arms in Justin Wilson, Garrett Whitlock, Justin Slayton, and Aroldis Chapman. That is the right combination of guys to use in a game like this in which it's really close and the Red Sox need to pull it out. So Alex Cora has been managing this team like they're in a playoff series as of late, and I'm a huge fan of it, and I really like the way that he's been handling certain situations. And this was a big win for the Boston Red Sox because they are not guaranteed a playoff spot as of right now, so they need to just continue to win games in order to do so. So while Lucas Giolito wasn't as sharp as we would have hoped, hopefully he can turn things around ASAP because he is going to be very important to a Red Sox playoff run. So we'll see how that all plays out. But coming up, I'm going to be previewing pitching matchups for the next 2 games of this series. Why does this bode well for the Red Sox? I'm going to be telling you exactly the answer to that. If you're ever in a pinch and looking for last-minute tickets, you should check out Gametime because it is the best site for tickets. I use it all the time for concerts, sporting events, comedy shows, etc., to basically make sure that I'm securing really good tickets at a last-minute deal. The app makes it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. Also, fees are included. You can know your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. You really will be so satisfied with Gametime if you start to use it for all of your ticketing needs, I promise you. And you gentlemen out there, you should start using Rugiet. Rugiet is essentially a telehealth platform that sells prescription medications for hair growth, weight loss, and men's health issues, including any sexual issues that guys are having. It essentially sells 3 sexual health products: Rugiet Ready, Rugiet Boost, and Rugiet Go Long. So it gives you a good variety. Plans at Rugiet start at $270 per dose for Rugiet Boost and $10 per dose for Rugiet Ready, and starting at $195 for Rugiet Go Long. So you have options there that you definitely should utilize, and I 100% recommend that you do because your life will be a lot more satisfying. The Red Sox are coming off of a big win against the Toronto Blue Jays last night, and now they just need to continue to keep up with those winning ways. They are not guaranteed a postseason spot right now. They need to continue to win games the rest of this week in order to do so. And this is a tough Blue Jays team that has won a lot of games this year, especially games against the Red Sox. They have struggled against Toronto this year. So the fact that they were able to take this one last night was huge, but they need to continue to play good, strong baseball. And here is the key. They are going to need to lean heavily on their starting pitchers. Like I talked about with Lucas Giolito, he still needs to be sharper, but scheduled to pitch tonight is Garrett Crochet. He was actually originally scheduled to pitch on Thursday, but the Red Sox moved him up, which is a little bit scary because his last couple outings have been on 4 days rest, and he hasn't exactly looked super sharp when he's been pitching on 4 days rest. So it's definitely a gamble for the Red Sox to take. But the reasoning that they likely moved him up to Wednesday from Thursday is so that he can get a full 5 days rest going into game 1 of a wild card series, which would be next Tuesday. So I think the Red Sox would rather have him pitch once again on 4 days rest and make sure that he then goes and has full rest to be able to be at his best for a potential wild card game 1. So hopefully with Crochet pitching, it can give the Red Sox some confidence in their ability to win the game tonight. The Blue Jays have Max Scherzer pitching, who is pitched to a 5-4 record and 5.06 ERA on the season with 77 strikeouts. So the biggest thing with this matchup is going to be, can Crochet still be the dominant version of Garrett Crochet that we've seen for the majority of this season? Because he has had a couple outings that haven't been as sharp. His most recent start was not as sharp because he was on 4 days rest instead of 5. So my concern going into this game is Garrett Crochet going to be able to handle it and be able to still pitch at a high level on 4 days rest? Because at this point, there is very little room for error for the Red Sox. Their magic number to clinch a playoff spot is 4 with 5 games remaining. Any loss by the Cleveland Guardians, the Detroit Tigers, or the Houston Astros also helps the Red Sox out. And luckily, last night, the Astros lost, so that helped. The Guardians are playing the Tigers, so those two teams will battle it out and cancel each other out. So whichever one loses will also help out the Red Sox too, but they personally just need to keep winning. And Toronto is in a place right now where they are hungry and want to win the division, and they have the Yankees right on their tails for that division victory. So they are playing with intensity and at a really high level, and the Red Sox are going to need to match that. And Garrett Crochet is the ace of this pitching rotation. He is a very solid pitcher. We know that his sweeper is absolutely nasty. That's his put-away pitch that's basically been proving to be unhittable all season long, and guys just don't know how to hit it. So he's going to have to continue to utilize that pitch strongly if he wants to get the win tonight. And the Red Sox, it was huge that they were able to get a win last night, despite the fact that Lucas Giolito did not look as sharp as he possibly could have. But now they are expecting Garrett Crochet to look sharp. This is a must-do. He needs to be at his best, and I'm worried about him being at his best on 4 days rest. So that's the biggest storyline with that pitching matchup. And then you go to Thursday's pitching matchup, and Thursday, the Blue Jays have Shane Bieber going, who they recently picked up. He has a 3-2 record on the season with a 3.57 ERA and 34 strikeouts. He's going against Brian Bayo, who has pitched to 11-8 as his record with a 3.34 ERA and 121 strikeouts. So those two pitchers overall have both been solid. Brian Bayo, my concern is what he's looked like over the last month. He just hasn't looked as sharp in the month of September as we got used to seeing from him earlier on in the season, which is definitely a bit of a concern because it makes you wonder what is going on with Brian Bayo. Is he starting to slip back into old habits? Is he forgetting what's worked for him, or what worked for him, is it no longer working for him now? And if that's the case, then what can the Red Sox do ASAP to ensure that he gets himself back on track? Because again, similar to the Lucas Giolito conversation, the Red Sox are going to need Brian Bayo to be 100% at his best in the postseason, likely as the number 2 starter behind Garrett Crochet. And in order to make that happen, he needs to go out there, figure out whatever is wrong, and fix it immediately. So I'm looking at Brian Bayo and saying, yeah, he definitely is the number 2 starter still, but his month of September has not been great. So the reason that his start on Thursday is going to be big for him is because this could be a huge outing in terms of the fact that it will be his last outing before a playoff series. So if he goes out there on Thursday night and he just doesn't look good, then it's going to leave a sour taste in Red Sox fans' mouths, and it's going to have people wondering, well, can we even trust Brian Bayo because he is going out there and not pitching very well and not pitching at a high level when the Red Sox really need it from him. So that's another key thing that I'm going to be looking for is, can he step up in a big game, look like a really strong pitcher, and then go into the playoffs with confidence. That is going to be one of the most important things here that I am going to be looking out for. So obviously some interesting pitching matchups that we have in this series. And speaking of tonight's pitching matchup with Garrett Crochet versus Max Scherzer, I actually spoke with Max Scherzer when he was in Worcester. He was rehabbing with the Blue Jays AAA team at the time because he had been injured. He had a hand injury. And I spoke with him during the recovery process. Ironically, he was actually making a rehab start against Tanner Houck that night. So I spoke with both pitchers, and it was kind of cool because they went to the same college. They both went to Mizzou. So I asked him a little bit about his interactions with Tanner Houck and what it was like pitching against him in that rehab outing. So he opened up about their relationship a little bit and what it was like, the fact that they had to go up against each other. And he also talked a lot about his recovery process and what his goals were for the rest of the season when he got back up to the Blue Jays. So take a listen to that interview that offered a lot of insight into Max Scherzer and how he was going to be approaching the rest of the season.
I'm doing well. Got my pitch counts where I wanted to get it today. So I kind of checked that box. And had to deal with some long innings, with the flow of the game and navigate it well. And I thought I threw the ball better than last time. I was kind of getting some long ABs, pitch count got up, but that's just part of baseball. So there's a lot of good out of today. You're dealing with all the variables. I mean, you could also have quick innings, and that's a variable, and long innings are a variable. So it's just something you got to navigate, something you got to deal with, and that's baseball, and you got to be able to deal with that. Physically, pretty good, but like I've always said here, that I won't know exactly how this goes until tomorrow. My hand has always been a situation until I'm actually in major league games, recovering from major league starts, and being good. I don't have a smile on my face. I don't feel like I'm out of the woods. So tomorrow's a bigger day than today, and making sure that I can recover from this start. I'd rather face him in the big leagues, rather than be a Red Sox and face him there. So don't like being down here in the minors and having to face him. So I think we're both in the same situation on that. We work out at Cressy's together. So I've met him a few times at different Mizzou functions, and then got to know him better there at Cressy's. So keep tabs on him, and we talk shop and. As we're training throughout the whole off season, so kind of got to know him pretty good. If we didn't have a DH, it'd be way better, right? that'd be a lot more fun. So, I didn't get to face him, so not really anything in my day where I'm going against him. So I'm going against their opposing lineup. It's not about the hits or kind of the results. It's kind of the process. And I think a little bit too many walks. Like that's the first thing I'd go to is they especially that 4-pitch walk. That's where my arm was kind of getting a little fatigued. I was kind of going through that inning. My arm got fatigued, so that's a bad walk. But then was able to collect myself and be able to get the pitches back to where I wanted to on the next at bat. So like I said, that it's kind of the process of spring training as you're building back up your pitch counts. You kind of run into that, but I was able to work myself out of that as I was starting to get fatigued.
Is there anything mechanically that you're trying to focus on as you continue through your rehab?
That's a good question. I can give you a specific answer on that. I've actually picked up this weird, kind of pause in my delivery, and it's starting to show up sometimes in the game, and so I got to get that out. I got a bad habit right now, so I'm constantly telling myself to not pause. I want to have a good, quick leg kick, and I get this little slight pause in there that I get rid of. So, from that mechanic standpoint, I don't know. I got a bad tick right now. I just got to break it. We'll make the best decision for the organization and myself. What we do next. Last time out I was at 56 pitches. I think today I got to 76. You don't want to go more than 20 pitches as you're increasing your pitch count. So. For me, that checks that box. That's the most I want to take on in an additional outing. So we'll see what we want to do next.
The Blue Jays have been playing pretty good baseball so far. What are you most looking forward to get up there?
No, just get back with the guys and pitch and try to help the ball club win. I mean, like you said, been playing really good baseball, and I've been dying. You know, it's been fun to watch it on the bench, but I don't like being on the bench. I want to be out there competing and helping the team win. So whenever that day does come, I can't wait to get back out there and try to help the ball club win.
So as you could see from that, Max Scherzer is more motivated than ever this year, and he came back to the Blue Jays this year with extra motivation after missing some time from being hurt. So what does that mean for the Red Sox? They have to go out there and they need to make him work. He is not going to take this matchup lightly. He is just happy to be back out there. And when he was recovering in AAA, it was a few months ago. And at that point, his status was unknown about when he was going to be back. But the Red Sox need to go out there and bring their bats because they are not going to be taking it lightly, the Blue Jays. They have a lot to play for still, and they are going to bring that out in the rest of this series. So the Red Sox need to keep their feet on the gas is the moral of the story here, and just continue to play good baseball because their spot is definitely still not guaranteed in the playoffs. Coming up, the ABS system is being implemented at the major league level. What does it mean for the game? I'm going to be discussing that. If you're trying to get into sports betting, check out FanDuel today, especially with the NFL season being here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. FanDuel is a great way to start racking up lots of money. I promise you, if you download the app today, you're going to keep betting and you're not going to stop. So just be ready for that, but it'll change your life. I've had a lot of experience this season covering the Worcester Red Sox in AAA, and I definitely want to say how grateful I am for that experience. It was wonderful being able to talk to and get to know the players, the coaching staff over there, other media personnel, just a great experience overall. And I definitely got to talk to some great people there. And one of the interesting things too that I got to experience by being in Worcester was the ABS system, which wasn't used in Major League Baseball this season, but it was used at the minor league level, and Worcester was one of those places that it was used. But now it has been announced that its system is coming to MLB full time in 2026. It's been confirmed. The Joint Competition Committee voted on Tuesday afternoon to bring it to the big leagues following several years of experimentation in the minors and use in MLB spring training and the All-Star game this year. So people have definitely gotten a little bit of exposure to it from the All-Star game and during spring training games, but not every spring training facility had it. The Red Sox spring training facility did not. So if you watched a lot of Red Sox spring training games, you might not have actually seen it fully or seen how it worked. But ABS stands for Automated Ball Strike Challenge System. So essentially what it means is that people can challenge a ball or a strike, but the rules are that it has to be the pitcher, catcher, or batter. They are the only ones that can challenge a call, and they are not allowed to get any outside influence from anybody else on the field or in the dugout. So nobody else can tell them whether to challenge it or not. It has to be one of those three players, and it has to be immediately after the pitch is thrown if they do decide that they want to challenge it. And then it'll be reviewed, and then it can be overturned possibly. And when a call is challenged, the Hawkeye view is then transmitted over a 5G private network from T-Mobile's advanced network solutions and nearly instantaneously shown to those in attendance via the scoreboard and to home viewers via the broadcast. So everybody can see it and be looking at the same thing. The ball strike call is then either confirmed or overturned, and the game goes on, having only been briefly interrupted. So it's really cool, this technology with Hawkeye technology running in the background and monitoring the exact location of each pitch relative to the batter's zone. Players can request a challenge of a ball or strike call that they feel the umpire got wrong. And it's kind of cool because it's kind of that middle ground between robot umps that could call every ball and strike, and the longstanding tradition of the natural human error that comes with human umps. So this system kind of gives teams the opportunity to request a quick review of some of the most important ball strike calls in a given game without having to have robots calling every pitch. So MLB is constantly trying to make rules that will make the game better. And this does make the game better. From seeing it in Worcester, it creates for a lot more accuracy, because when players in Worcester would challenge the pitch call, sometimes it would be a lot more outside the zone than the ump realized, and it very clearly should be a ball and was called a strike, or vice versa. If a hitter is challenging it because they think it should be a ball when it was called a strike, or the pitcher, for example, wants it to be called a strike and it's called a ball, it really is beneficial because it allows you to actually see exactly where the pitch was located. So that way then it's a more accurate call, and people aren't left feeling like a missed call determined a game. So how exactly does it work? So each team will start the game with 2 challenges apiece. And if a game goes into extra innings, any team that starts the extra inning out of challenges will get 1 challenge for the 10th inning. If they exhaust that challenge, they will then get another challenge for the 11th and so on. But if a team has challenges remaining at the start of the 10th inning, they will not get an additional challenge for that inning, though they will for any subsequent inning if they are out of challenges at the start of the inning. So the idea is that you don't get extra challenges, but everybody has 1 to start extra innings. And it'll be in use for every MLB game at every ballpark, including during the postseason. And just a reminder again that only the batter, pitcher, or catcher can challenge the call. Not even the manager can do it. The challenges must be made immediately after the umpire's call without assistance from the dugout or other players. And how is it issued exactly? The player taps his cap or helmet to alert the umpire to his desire to challenge the call. And it 100% helps. In 288 games with the ABS challenge system during spring training 2025, there were an average of 4.1 challenges per game, and those challenges took an average of 13.8 seconds. So it's really quick, but it also allows for more accuracy. And challenges are retained. A team only loses its challenge if the umpire's call is confirmed. So it's similar to the way other challenges work, in that if you win the challenge, you retain yours. So it's a good way to improve and continue to grow the game, because so many people would get upset if they feel the ump missed a call. So this will now allow for players to have a little bit more of a say. If a player gets mad at an umpire because they feel like a pitch is outside the strike zone, if they're hitting and then it gets reviewed and it turns out it hit the corner, they can't really make a fuss about it or complain about it after that, because it was reviewed and upheld and everybody saw the evidence. So I really like it. From what I saw in Worcester, it allowed for more players to feel like they had a bit of a say. And if a call was frustrating to them and they didn't think it was right, it allowed them to have a voice in that. So it does help improve the game, and it's super quick. It takes less than 10 seconds usually to review this. So I can't wait for it to be implemented across the board. I think it's a fantastic idea for Major League Baseball. And I think it's great that the minor league players have had exposure with using it, because it's a great way to transition it to the major league. So we'll see how it goes, but I really like this move. I think it's going to be great for the sport and its overall growth and accuracy moving forward. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But thank you so much for tuning into Locked On Red Sox and always making it your first listen of every single day. Be sure to next check out Locked On MLB Game Night on YouTube or any other podcast platform on the Locked On MLB page. Our local Locked On experts will discuss every single game, every single night, all the way up until a World Series champion is crowned. So you can get local analysis on a national scale. Just find that show wherever you listen to podcasts. I highly recommend it. It's so good. So make sure you check that out as your second listen after Locked On Red Sox. And like always, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.